Good evening, Super League fans. I hope you're well, to borrow the phrase from Mr. Palmer. Hopefully, you can hear me. Microphone says that it's on, so I'm guessing that means that it is. Um, bit of a quick one this evening. Just a bit of a chilled kind of chat. Not much going on, to be honest. Trying to recover from having a lot of weekend games and generally a lot of admin and busy things. So yeah, have a quick look at the results, the table, the fixtures, and then there's a couple of like talking points that I just wanted to cover in the video so that maybe someone can have a look at it later if they feel interested. So if for any reason you can't hear or the screen stops working or whatever, give me a shout in the comments. And of course, if you have questions along the way, then do feel free to chip in. So, in case you're wondering, this is what the results look like from last weekend. We're starting off with having a look at AS Athletic and Panathinaikos. So a brilliant away win for Panathinaikos there. Perhaps not the most impressive performance by the individual players, but they still did well enough to get the win. And of course, eights are good. Lehman still getting a nine, probably keeper of the season, perhaps taking over from Bartes and has done really well. Less success for Alf's attacking formation. Difficult to break down this one at the rear. Great Wall of Parma kind of tactic with depending on your formation obviously, but this kind of wide formation that many people play. Ian played earlier this season. Ardsley played it. Yeah, we've seen lots of it. It's not the best against the Panathinaikos formation, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the last game if anyone tries to do something different or if they just try to go with the tried and tested. We'll see. I mean, it's a good one for Parma anyway. Dominated the second half if I remember rightly. Um, Astor had the better of the first half, but yeah, Panathinaikos coming out on top. Ebasand obviously scoring the goal has been one of the key players for Panathinaikos this season. 8.05 average, 16 goals in 22 games. Heading into the playoffs, that could obviously be even more. So yeah, he's been very important for Panathinaikos and probably another season or two in him. So we'll see what Chris fancies with regards to Ebasand for next season, if he's gonna keep playing him or what's gonna happen there. We had BTEC playing Sloths. So BTEC, who despite Ian talking himself down a little bit sometimes, actually has a half decent home record, and again managed to get a good result. Of course, Simon Davies not really at a level that warrants inclusion in the Super League side, but he's there anyway. He got a six, and you gotta someone's got to make up the numbers if there's other people that are underperforming or unhappy or whatever. You got to put out 11, and at least the rest of them did a decent job. Bakahawa, who I think Tim suggested should have swapped with Danielson. Both of them seem to enjoy their position sort of relatively well. Sloths, I don't know what really happened with Sloths recently. They had a pretty good run of form. They seem to have a settled tactic. Then Rob kind of deviated from that a little bit, went all in again Ardsley, and I'm just not sure what happened there. If the players have just lost a little bit of form, or it's coming towards the end of the season, there's not much to play for them. So perhaps that's why. So yeah, not a great performance from them. Looking at the individual player stats, no one really stood out. Carrick did a half decent job, but the rest of them kind of not a lot in. Of interest in there. As mentioned, Howard got an assist. Danielson got the goal. Dielson, who's proven a very shrewd signing by Ian, 10 million from somewhere in Brazil, has really made an impressive start to his BTEC life. You'll probably get another year or two out of him at the very top level, and if that's the kind of return Ian will continue to get out of Ed Dielson, then why not? Should definitely be pleased enough with that. Then we had probably the shock of the evening, Churchtown, with a very yeah, I don't know how to explain it. They got a very early goal and a second very early goal. 12 minutes in, they were already 2-0 up. I think 3-0 by halftime, and I think Casillas was down to a 4. Not really done a lot. Obviously, Churchtown went extremely attacking, as we can probably see here, with 5 guys up front and overwhelmed the back line at Bolton. Surprising that Bolton weren't really able to respond, but if you look at the lineup of the tactic, you've got really Um, sort of Chinsky, Jeremies, and Davids up against the two forwards or two attacking midfielders from Bolton, and then Thuram completely outmuscling Montella for most of the game. Montella obviously didn't get much of a look in there. You can see how well that lines up. And if you factor in the fact that they've got Barry Ferguson and the form that he's been in a central midfield, then it was a tough one for Bolton. But I think most people, including myself, would have expected slightly better from them. Kale, who's let them down on occasions before. I mean, he's done okay recently, but he did get a red card, and I think it was a dramatic 2-2 game maybe against Swindon. My memory is not great, but it was something to that effect anyway, which was caused a problem for Sebastian Kehl in his Bolton career already. Thierry Henry came on. I mean, they're obviously suffering from Figo being injured, but still 4-1 as a big surprise. If we're looking at the Churchtown stats, Sorochinski obviously getting that red card, not ideal, but they managed to only concede one and even score one during that time when they were down to 10 men, so the whole of the second half basically. A couple of assists and a goal for Barry Ferguson, who's now on 16 games, 6 goals and 14 assists. Difficult to compete with for the rest of the league, I think. Player wise, uh, we spoke a lot about Dede, whether he should be in contention for player of the year, team of the year, or whatever, and maybe he should. But if you're looking at someone who's involved in 22 goals in 16 games, then Barry Ferguson's got to be in that conversation as well, I think. Apart from that, Edgar Davids did a good job. Jens Jeremies did a not so great job there in central midfield. Not entirely sure that could have resulted in possible suspensions for some of them. Obviously, they're not the people who get the least yellow cards, but there are people who get more. Pablo Montero, I'm looking at you, who's on 8, I think, now for the season. Overall, though, an impressive impressive performance from Churchtown. I don't think anyone expected that, especially considering the the chairman's oversight when it came to the lineup, where we'd included Michael Owen instead of Ulissa Davy. Ended up not having a negative impact on the result. So well done to Kieran for that one. And obviously that makes the top three battle kind of a top two battle rather kind of more exciting than it was perhaps looking before the fixtures. Then we had Chudley. Yeah, and it definitely looked as if the co-commentator Tim was going to have an evening to forget after having done a sterling job the first hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes commentating on the other game. It was finally the time of his own Chudley Cannons, and yeah, they didn't start the match great. They'd conceded 2 goals by 7 minutes, but then Rossini pulled one back. I kind of feel like he got one disallowed as well. Either way, yeah, they went 2 goals down, and then they proceeded to hit 5 in return. So yeah, a very impressive game by Chudley Cannons. After the first 7 minutes, they really dominated Ardsley, who in the end only had 4 shots on goal. Cannons only 7, getting 5 goals out of it, and I think it's like Ken Sauer's getting a 5, which is, I mean, given the circumstances, perhaps even that's a little bit generous. But either way, solid win for the Cannons, and something that had they've been looking for a long time. A decent tactic. I think many will agree for Chudley that really suits some of the players that they've got. You could argue that maybe it's a little bit defensive, but they do have two very attack-minded wing backs in Boomer and Romedal, who can definitely come up and create the chances. And I think Boomer had 3 assists in the end in this game as well. Peter Luchin came in and obviously did a relatively good job trying to get himself in the in the shopping window, and he's keen on leaving the club apparently. But if he keeps putting in performances like this, maybe he'll get a regular game and he'll change his mind. Who knows? Roy Carroll in goal. Yeah, I think Timmy might still be looking for a goalkeeper in the summer. Not a great game for Arsenal, to be fair. Okoronkwo doing a terrible job. Kenny Sowers not doing a great job. Diego Tristan, just back from injury, didn't really live up to expectations. Down to 75 fitness again, but I think he managed to recover for in time for next week. Morientes got a goal, which is good for him in the top scorer standings, but it's a shame for Arsenal that they conceded 5 in this way. It seems a little bit hit and miss with their results, and especially away from home, they've obviously struggled as quite a few teams have. 2 assists for Ibrahim Said, perhaps a little bit surprising, but I'm sure that Hodge will be more than happy with at least one of his new signings having done a fairly decent job. So let's see. Yeah, it was a free kick from Said and another cross. So yeah, I'm not familiar with Ibrahim Said and his attacking prowess, but not the best set pieces and not the best passing, but he managed 2 assists anyway, so I guess that's fine. Hornets had a 3-0 victory over Dragon Destroyers, as we spoke about during the show. Craig has really gone with his gammon formation here and gone 4-4-2, what appears to be long ball up to Luca Toni, who then just kind of tucks him away when he get the chance. And obviously that was too much for Robbie Keane, who didn't get a look in this game. Very much contrary to what he's had in previous outings. Petrov tracking him very well with that backwards arrow there probably, and keeping Robin Keane under control. And then we had Freddie Lundberg on the right hand side, and along with Samuel Kufur, they kept Ryan Giggs quiet. So yeah, good result for Hornets, and keeps them in contention obviously for the last playoff spot, and Craig will be happy with that. A bit of a shame for Jamie with the result there. Not a lot of things have gone his way this season, to be honest. He's had plenty of injuries. I mean, now he's got Dean Richards on the bench of all people. I don't think anyone was expecting to see him. Alan Shearer and Brosig allegedly doing a fine job at getting sevens each, but it's the goals that count really, especially at this stage of the season. Dragons with nothing to show for their efforts, and especially in the striking department, that has been quite terrible for them. 7 shots, 1 on target. Again, most of them coming from Robbie Keane and from elsewhere, not really anything from the strikers, as we've sadly come to expect from Dragons. Even when they're winning, it's not going particularly well for the strikers. Then we had Swindon, so a nice little story there for Swindon Devils getting a good win. Yeah, 5-2. Probably not many people would have predicted that, and and a great conversion rate for them as well. 10 shots and 10 goals. So yeah, a really good result for Swindon, and I think one that Fifey will will treasure, especially considering as a formation that he hadn't tried exactly this formation before, and hopefully he'll see that going on to provide future points for the Devils. Some sort of joke about not many people expecting to see Dean Richards on the bench. I mean, considering that Dean Richards had been nowhere near the bench in the first 22 games of the season, then I'm not sure why anyone would expect him. I'm not sure anyone would even knew that Dean Richards was in the game. Never mind that he played for Dragons. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's a hidden superstar, Joe. I don't know. Back to the game at hand here. We had Swindon, Patrick Kluivert, man of the match. Elmander getting 2 goals, perhaps surprising to some. He'd not had the best of his career at Swindon. Ah, yeah, well, there's Mark Vivian Foe. Oh no, he sold. Who's got Mark Vivian Foe? Mark Vivian Foe played as well. So yeah, not many people were expecting him either. If we're talking about dead people in the league, that's fair enough. Se Roberto got a 10. Montero got another yellow card. I'm not sure if that means he's suspended or not, but anyway, he's got a few of them. Um, Overall, very strong performance. He's finally getting a tune out of Zinedine Zidane, so that's 2 games with nines, and yeah, and great numbers for Zidane. Finally, there's been a struggle for Fifey to get a role for him that suited him, but it looks as if everyone is kind of happy. Even Ugu Hegiok, who despite not touching the ball managed to get a 7. Difficult position in the back three, obviously. From his Midlothian, it was a second half horror show. Really, Hedman getting a 5. The attacking players doing relatively well. Back getting an assist. Kesman and Kuhl with the goals. But yeah, just conceded far too much. And if we look at it here, I mean, halftime, everybody's not laughing, but it's going relatively well for Midlothian at halftime, and in the second half that all turned on its head. Gattuso got sent off, but they were already down at that point. So yeah, it was a tricky afternoon, or tricky evening rather, for Midlothian. So Ian had high hopes for getting into the playoffs, and I believe that he still does. But it's going to take a little bit of work, I think, for for his side to get back in, and definitely getting a home win is vitally important for him now. We'll have a little look at what some of the teams have got left to play after this. Last game that was up this evening was Valen United, who underlined their potential champions credentials, if we can call it that. They had been on a bit of a lull in form recently, but they were definitely back firing on all cylinders against hooligans. As Thiago pointed out, I mean, there's one thing being beaten 5-2 and having a terrible performance, but he was beaten 5-2, and apart from like 4-6s, his players didn't actually perform that badly. It was just a very, very strong Ballon United side that turned up. I actually forgot to see Cafu still. Cafu's having a bit of a break from having assists. Yeah, so that's good news for Valen, and bad news for everyone else, that it was just a little bit of a blip there for Valen United with the last couple of games, and they are definitely back in contention. I think Andreas will be especially pleased with Francesco Totti and his performance, getting an assist and 2 goals. That's what he's been waiting for pretty much all season, for Totti to come up with a performance like that. He's not been terrible, but he's not been brilliant either. For hooligans, I mean, Ronaldinho getting an assist. Kennedy is probably their best player, and if you look at the stats, then that's a little bit sad. That's what it's come to for hooligans, that they have to rely on a very young Kennedy with relatively poor stats to get them the goals. We'll see what Thiago can do in the last couple of games of the season, if he can turn it around for hooligans. They are obviously still in with a chance of the playoffs, but it's looking a little bit challenging now. Away form and average attendances. Yes, we're going to have a look at the table now. We're going to have a look at who's got who coming up. First, let's have a look at the table. If you want to see the average attendance, I think it's in here, isn't it? Average attendance. I mean, there's not really a lot to see. Everyone's got a pretty much a sold out stadium, and as all the stadiums are the same size, then let's have a look. Hooligans on top, Sloths, Panathinaikos, Midlothian. It doesn't really seem to be any kind of a correlation between performance. We've got the 1 and 2 in the league, down between Dragons and BTEC at the bottom. Hooligans obviously with the Fanatic fans in Brazil, up at top of the table. I think Midlothian are still there, or maybe we can see that in the history attendances. Yeah, the highest attendance with Midlothian at home to Hooligans, the best supported team, so they were the first. I don't know if there's been anyone else, but there's definitely been 50,000 at that one. That's a sellout, obviously. We'll see if any of the stadiums get extended over the summer. I'm not sure if that's possible, but yeah, that's possible. I think they can still install. I don't think we have undersoil heating. Maybe have a look. Top facility plus youth academy. No, so there's still the possibility of having undersoil heating. Not entirely sure why we need that in Australia, but but there we go. Back to the league, back to the table. 2 teams now have that elusive Q next to them, so it means they cannot be booted out of the playoffs. So Midlothian is on 30 points, so they've obviously got 13 points up to Bolton and 14 to Valen United. So that's 13, 14 points difference with only 12 to play for. Then that means that those 2 teams have secured their spot there. Will they continue their great run of form and secure a actual 1-2? Remains to be seen, obviously. If we look at Valen United and their remaining fixtures, they're away to Sloths, away to BTEC, at home to Swindon Devils, and away to Hornets. So I would say a pretty tough run in for Valen United with 3 away games and only 1 home game. Yeah, and Hornets, BTEC are definitely not the worst home teams. Sloths a little bit so, and Swindon obviously that can be a little bit hit and miss with them, who turns up there. So yeah, a kind of a tricky one for Valen. If you look at Bolton, what they've got left, they go away to Ardsley. That could go either way, but Ardsley again, not the worst home side, and they can score goals. Dragons at home, which depending on whether Giggs or Keane could turn up, can be a tricky one or an easy one. Midlothian away is not going to be easy, and Hooligans at home, it's also a little bit hit and miss whether Ronaldinho, Kennedy, or whoever gets the goals. If they can stop Bolton from scoring, then they're obviously in with a good chance. This was obviously Bolton ending a long run of good results. I think the last defeat was to. Did they really lose away to BTEC? Maybe that was the last one. Either way, they play Ardsley, Dragons, Midlothian, and Hooligans. So I would argue a little bit of an easier run in than the Swedes. And then Churchtown. So they're obviously also contenders. If it wasn't for the fact that they were one of the weaker home sides, they would have had by far the easiest run in because they have got three home games at home to Asta, at home to BTEC, and at home to Ardsley. The two last ones should be pretty much, if form is anything to go by, I expect 6 points from those, obviously, Panathinaikos and Asta. Let's see who turns up on the day and if Kieran will continue with his attacking formation. But it's interesting that the team that are currently in third spot, I would say, have by far the easiest um, last four games of the top three. We can include Panathinaikos in this, perhaps. It's still possible, obviously, mainly because they are very, very strong at home and they have three home games and they play Georgetown in one of them. Interesting to see that none of the top four sides, top three or four sides, play each other in the last games, apart from that one Georgetown Panathinaikos. So that's a vital game, obviously. The winner, whoever it is that's going to challenge for the top two spots, is going to have to win that one. Otherwise, the last two games are probably not relevant for the top two battle. So a half decent run in for Panathinaikos here as well with three home games. And if we have a quick look at the home form. So Valen, obviously a good home side. Bolton again, good home side, as you'd expect. At this end of the table that these teams do relatively well. Interesting to see that Midlothian and BTEC are obviously up there as two very, very strong home sides as well, but with appalling away form. Who's got BTEC and Midlothian? Bolton are away to Midlothian, so that's a tricky one for them. I think was it Churchtown that was away to BTEC. So Valen go to BTEC, so that could be a tricky one for them as well. Looking at the away side of things, Churchtown won't be worried about away games. Bolton and Valen United, I mean, they're top of the table, but it's still tricky for them to get 3 points away. Certainly more difficult than it is to get 3 points at home, and they have more home games played already. So yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see how that top four battle plays out. If we have a little bit of a look slightly further down the table, we have Ast Athletic obviously in pole position to secure a playoff spot as well, followed by Hoddesdon Hornets. Asta's run-in is Churchtown away, which is going to be tricky. Ardsley at home, I mean Midlothian at home, which should be easy. They have a comfortable-ish schedule, I would say, Asta. So in with a good shot of making it. Hornets, they're at way to Midlothian. That's a tricky one. That way to, yeah, I mean, like it's still doable as well for Hornets. It's definitely not the worst, and a fair little mix of games that they've got there. Then we have a look at Midlothian. As discussed before, Midlothian's away form is not good. So they've got Chudley away, Astor away. They have got two tough games at home as well. So they're away games which they're struggling to win. I mean, they're not against the strongest sides, but the home games are against tricky sides, definitely. I mean, a must win against Hornets in the first one, because otherwise Hornets are going to open up a 5 point gap to them. So that's going to be a key game for Midlothian for them if they want to continue their progress towards the top of the table. If we have a look at Hooligans, they start off by Swindon at home. They have to win that one. They have to beat Hornets away. I would say they probably have to win at least three of these last four. Is it impossible to win these three games for Hooligans? If they can be relatively injury free, if they can get the good people firing, if they can stop conceding goals, it's not impossible for Hooligans, but it's going to be very, very tricky, and they're going to have to rely on obviously Midlothian and other teams doing them a favor against Hornets. I wouldn't say the easiest run in either, but one that could definitely get results for Hooligans, so they can still make it. Chudley, the last of the real contenders, I would say. Mainly because they probably have, without being unfair to any of the other teams, I think Chudley have the easiest run-in of the remaining teams. I mean, Dragons away is not an easy game, but again, Dragons rely so heavily on just two players. So if Chudley can overcome that, then they have definitely a good chance. Midlothian away at home. Midlothian, as mentioned, terrible away. They could turn that around, obviously, although nothing is indicating that that's about to happen. Hooligans, who are kind of a little bit hit and miss, are beatable as well. And finally, Sloths at home in the last game. So without being disrespectful to the other teams, and also looking at league positions, I think that Chudley are in with a decent shout with the games they've got left. They still have to win them, of course, but not not the most challenging run in of fixtures if we're comparing them to the other teams in the league. Ardsley, minor miracle, could happen. They would need to beat Bolton, Aston Palmer. They probably need to win all four and playing Churchtown away and Astor away, given their away form. Then that's going to be a tough ask for Ardsley. Very inconsistent with regards to goals in and out and scored. And yeah, it's been not been a great season for Ardsley, but hopefully Hodgie will have the summer. If he doesn't make it to the playoffs this season, then hopefully he'll have the summer to get things right and get that defensive base in order. 49 goals conceded, 42 scored. Yeah, it's with the squad at his disposal that he'll be disappointed with that. Dragons, not because they've had a particular bad squad or anything, but they've just it's the striker issue for them. Yeah, good point, Ryan. They hadn't won in six before the last one, so I guess it's seven now. Yeah, so it's a tough one for Hodgie and the boys. Dragons, if it wasn't for the strikers, I think they'd be doing much better, to be fair. But the strikers aren't working, and whether it's the strikers' fault or the tactics' fault or Robbie Keane just hoovering up the ball, I have no idea. But it's not working out for them, unfortunately, unless Giggs and Keane are in top form, which they'll have to be against the Cannons. Then they're away to Phoenix, home to Asta, and away to Panathinaikos. Obviously, the last game of the season, very fitting into to Palmer's tenure as a Panathinaikos manager. It'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. But playoff hopes for Dragons. I mean, 6 points with 4 games left and having to play each other, etc. I think that raises Ran. Same goes for BTEC, of course. They have Panathinaikos away. Yeah, I mean they have another 3 chances. To be fair, it's Panathinaikos and Churchtown. It's not the easiest. Swindon, as we've just seen, is not necessarily easy as well. They have 3 more shots at getting an away win. If we look at the BTEC away from home, that's nil point for BTEC Troopers away. Arsenal on the other side, that's not doing great away, and I think Midlothian still not one away. No, Ryan, Midlothian still not one run away. Um, so yeah, that's it. That's it for BTEC. They've got 3 chances, and hopefully for Ian, he'll manage to pick up a point there or two just to get that 0 out of the way. Somerset Sloths, they play Valen at home. They could really have an impact on the playoffs. Somerset, I think they're the ones that could impact it the most probably. They play 3 teams in that zone. So obviously if they beat Valen at home, that's a big impact on the top 2 race. And then they play both Hornets and Chudley in the last 2 games, with the Swindon game squeezed in between there. They went on such a decent run. I mean, let's see how far that goes back. I think from here, 2-2 draw with Hooligans, 3-1, 4-1, 1-1, 2-1. Narrow loss to Asta, and then 2 wins on the bounce, a draw. Then they had that unfortunate result with Robbie Keane getting a hat trick there against Sloths. Then they had the fight with Ardsley where they scored a bunch of goals, and then after that, yeah, two defeats, one to Hooligans and one to BTEC. Tricky first season for Sloths, but I mean they've got a half decent squad, and when they were on a decent run, I mean I think Rob lost the first. How many games did he lose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, lost the first 6 games in a row. If he'd gotten something out of that, if he'd been on like say maybe 7 defeats and moved a couple of them over. Oh, sorry, if he'd been on let's say 7 defeats and had 2 draws and 3 draws and a win. I mean, gosh, that's another 6 points. That's on 29. Then he's in Hooligans Cannons territory. So that's yeah, it could be more for these teams. They've obviously been on bad runs at some point or had very bad away form, as the case is for BTEC. Finally, we've got Swindon Devils, and Swindon Devils play in their last games Hooligans away, Sloss at home, Valen United, and BTEC. So again, they can have some kind of influence on the playoffs if they take something from Hooligans there. Of course, Fifey's looking at the possibility of not finishing bottom. And yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there's 12 points to play for. You can finish on 28. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 teams that can technically be overtaken. Yeah, Danny Mills is unhappy. I don't know. I don't know what's up with him. Maybe he's finding it hard to to adjust to the Swindon lifestyle. I don't know what's what's going on with him, to be honest. Maybe Fifey can elaborate if when he feels better. So that's kind of where the table is at. I'll just have a quick look at the home form again. So as mentioned, Valen very good at home, not lost a single home game. The only team that have any kind of a unbeaten record left, I think. Um, I'll probably be wrong. No, they are the only team that have any kind of an unbeaten record to protect. Midlothian, very solid defensively at home as well, but unfortunately their away form has let them down. Same for BTEC. Panathinaikos is a solid mix. Hornets again, decent mix. Churchtown, yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's surprising. I mean, they could have been dominating the league, but unfortunately for them, they've got another 3 home games to play, I think, and at home they're just not as good as they are as they are away. Away they've been spectacular compared to the rest of the league. 24 goals scored, only 13 against. So yeah, very very impressive for Churchtown. But sadly for them, they've only got one away game left. I'm sure everyone would like to have only one away game left. I think BTEC is probably one of them. I would like to not play any more away games. Oh, unless they'll want to have a go at clearing that stuff away from these columns here. Midlothian as well, obviously still in with an opportunity of not ending the season with 0 in that particular column. Back to the overall table. I think we've pretty much seen that for as long as we want. Have a look at the player stats. Sambrata leading the way. Cafu is close. Ebisand, Morientes, Dede. I think Morientes obviously doing particularly well with his 15 goals in 15 games, and one of the few teams from one of the few players from the bottom ranks teams up here on the average ratings. I think we're looking at Martin Palermo's probably the next one. The rest of these are from some of the top half sides anyway. Midlothian, Carsten Ramelov is up there as well. Obviously, he didn't have the best game last time out, but yeah, he's still in there. And Ronaldinho, obviously. So a few talents in there. And Gary Neville, as Ryan quite rightly points out, has been very solid. Lots of tackles and good pass completion, obviously decent for that. And he's been a bit of a rock there at the back. With regards to shots on target, Mark Kerr keeps his 100% record of shots on target. I don't know if it's not very many or what's happening, but he's not scoring that many goals, so who cares? Alan Smith, Pablo Aymar, again, not really big goal scorers. Barry Ferguson, on the other hand, I've praised him before this evening. I'll praise him again. He's been a very good player for Churchtown. Terry Henry, I mean, he's not doing badly when he's playing. It's just not that often that he is. He's got obviously Montella and other people in there. Some of the guys from earlier on the season we've seen here, Paul, Alan Smith and Nicolay, who were doing decently earlier on. We've not seen much from them lately. If we're looking at the dribbling, it's Zidane, it's Giggs. I don't really know if this makes any sense, so we'll skip it. Man of the match performances, Robbie Keane, unsurprisingly. Van Nistelrooy, perhaps a little bit surprising. I don't know what else, if there's anything that really stands out to people here. I mean, Patrick Power getting 3, that's maybe that's maybe the only real surprise up here of the players that are included on this list until we get down. Then we're down to 2 games, so then it could be obviously just one of these things. But to see Big Patrick up here is it's quite surprising, I think. Disciplinary wise, Kale is still on 2, Lucio on 2. They're the only ones with 2 cards. On yellows, we've got Pablo Montero, who's out in front with 8, and a bunch of people on lesser number of yellow cards. No one really stands out. They're all defenders or central defensive midfielder caliber guys, and that is obviously where most of the battles are. I think we need to. I mean, Davids, Nedved, Cannavaro, Rustico, Tomasi, Kalusny, Finnan, Saviola. Saviola is the only attacking player, I think, on 4. So yeah, a bit of a ill discipline in some players, but not so much for the teams, yellows and reds. We can have a look at that in a second. Games lost. There's some Swindon and some BTEC players in there. Rossini as well, which is perhaps It's a shame for him because he's the top scorer in the league with 19 games and 19 goals in 22 games, 3 assists. I mean, he's very influential for Chudley, but he has lost quite a lot of games, which is a shame. The players who've won the most games is, of course, mainly from the teams that have won 12, 13 games and been pretty much ever present. Sinoni, who's maybe not been the most spectacular player for Bolton, is actually quite instrumental to their success. And has been part of a lot of wins along with Figo. Team conceded. Patrick Kluivert plays all the time for Swindon. There's not really much in these. We'll have a look at the assists. Not much changed. Barry Ferguson's got a. But my issue with Ivan Elguera is not he's not very good. Ivan Elguera is not very good. That's my issue with him. I don't think that's unfair. I think that's shared with many people. But yeah, Barry Ferguson has missed a penalty. Kluivert has scored. These are the penalty takers. These are the top scorers. So Rossini at the top of the list. Yeah, he's a good player, Rossini. Surprised that he wasn't included in the first or in the previous version of the Super League, but obviously Timmy getting a lot out of him this time. Let's see what's wrong with El Guerra. Is there anything wrong with him? There's nothing wrong with him. He's just not very good. Would you swap him for Gary Neville? I don't think so. Would you? That's pretty much it. Would you swap him? You should answer that. You should ask that question for for all defensive players and go, oh, what's wrong with him, Martin? And say, would you swap him with Gary Neville? And then if you'd rather have Gary Neville, then that means that the other person's not that good. I think that's a fair point. I think it's a fair point to make. That's my point anyway, and I'm sticking to it. Let's have a look at the form. Panathinaikos way out in front with a great performance there. We've got, what is that? Four wins in five and a draw. Bolton, Churchtown. So these are the top teams. Dragons had that unfortunate defeat there. Whether it was unfortunate or not. I always pointed out. Yeah, I think it's just a talking point, really. You've got to say something about each side. I mean, I mention Eversand every week. I mentioned that. What else do I mention? If Sloss play the Danish guy, I mentioned I don't like him. I can't remember. It's a Jorgensen one they have. So, yeah, it's just a few players that stand out to me. If anyone had David Batty, I'd slaughter him as well, or Robbie Savage. So, it's just one of those guys. I don't know. I didn't particularly like or care for even El Guerra or even Campo in real life either. So, that's maybe just one of those things. Arsenal with poor form. Chudley got a win, which is good for them after a poor run of results. Home form. BTEC. Who would have thought BTEC would be top of the table, but they are. Hooligans poor. I think once we're down here, it's more generic form. Panathinaikos not had the best home form, but they have done pretty well away. And if we look at the away form, then Bolton have the best away form going into the last couple of games. So good news for them. BTEC have the worst because they have lost all their away games. No match streaks left, I think, apart from Ardsley's non-winning streak. Churchtown with 2 wins in a row is the only one, and games lost in a row is Sloth with 2. But the games without winning, Ardsley have 7, and games without losing is now Panathinaikos and Churchtown that are topping that list after Bolton's surprising defeat to Churchtown. Don't know if there's anything else to have a look at here. Ardsley can't convert penalties. Barry Ferguson's very good at taking corners. What else can we deduct from this? Valiant United have some good indirect free kick takers. Churchtown as well, probably Barry Ferguson again. And BTEC have people who can take free kicks and score. Then there's Midlothian Sloths from direct free kicks. So it doesn't look as if there's any proper successful direct free kick specialist in the league, looking at the amount of goals that have come from direct free kicks. So it seems that it's better to have a corner than a direct free kick, certainly from the amount of course there's been more corners as well, so percentage wise, but if you have the right player to do it, then it definitely works out for you. Yellow cards is Panathinaikos and Swindon. I think it was the same as last week. Midlothian up there as well, but Valiant United and Phoenix are in there, so being a nice guy doesn't necessarily help. You can see that with BTEC and Dragons down at the bottom. The red card, Panathinaikos, Bolton, Hooligans. So again, Swindon is there already. Swindon are there already. Churchtown are down here. Again, a bit of a mix. So it's just really the style of play that the team has. It doesn't really seem to be impacting whether they're good or bad. Final thing we can have a look at here is the referees. this is kind of boring, so let's see who's given out the most yellow, or sorry, the most red. That's Wayne Dade, obviously. We started out by Wayne Oldham being the bad guy of the league, but he's only refereed 4 games all season, so and we still remember him from having his he still has a red card average per game, so yeah, he's a strict guy. But the guy with the most yellows is Wayne Dade with 41, and apparently he's harsh, which I think he's the only one that qualifies as harsh. So it's Wayne Dade you need to look out for if you're interested in the most aggressive referee. I think Ian mentioned something about a team of the something. I was the only one nominating Lehman for team of the year. Why are you talking about team of the year with 4 games in the playoffs still to go? Anyway, if we look at the awards as they are from the league, then we've got Lian Sleeman in goal, Montero, Boomer in central defense. I'm not sure how this works, which is it's just a little bit odd, I think. But that's what happens when the game does it rather than the panel. 2 of Wayne Oldham's games were on the same night, first game of the season. That's right. Yeah, I think he sent off Sol Campbell in the very first game, and did something else. Maybe in Palmer's game. I can't remember exactly, but it was something to that effect. Anyway, that's what the league is looking like. We've got some interesting games to look forward to. Hopefully with Palmer on co-coms at the weekend. We've got Ardsley at home to Bolton. So Ardsley with a kind of, well, did we say that they had a decent home form? Yeah, Ardsley, not the worst home form. Only 2 defeats all season at home. So that's not an easy one for Bolton, especially with morale maybe being a little bit low after that Churchtown game. But we'll see how that one plays out. Churchtown massive, Astor Athletic. I think Churchtown are going to go all in again, aren't they? Kieran really pushing for a top 2 spot. Then we've got Dragons home to Chudley. A crunch match for Chudley. They need to win this one to stay in contention. Same for Hooligans. They need to win to stay in contention. Same for Midlothian. This is especially important for them because they need to try and drag Hoddesdon Hornets down back into that fight for 6th place. Otherwise, it's no good for any of the other teams if they win. If Midlothian allow Hornets to win, so a lot of pressure on Midlothian and on Ian's shoulders tonight on Sunday night. Parmethionicos against BTEC. Can BTEC get a point away from home, or can Parmethionicos finally secure that Q next to the team name and in the table to cement the fact that he's going to be in the playoffs? Can I have a quick click on your keepers? Yes, I can have a quick click on your keepers, Ryan. No problem. And then we've got Sloths in the final game at home to Valiant United. Valiant United looking to at least hold on to, or if not extend their league at the top of the table with tricky games for Bolton and Churchtown. Astor on a pretty great run of form at the moment. We'll have a look at your players. Let's see. We'll have a look at Ike Casillas. He's done 733. He not a great average and conceded a few goals. I mean, I think he was 750. I think his average was quite good. He's still young, yeah. So something to look forward to for him. Long and glamorous career, and perhaps a heart attack or whatever else he had recently. Nick Matulin, low morale and not a good rating really. But he hasn't conceded many goals. I think that's his strong point probably. And if you want to have a look at Isakson, last but not least, he's not had a game so far this season. 1 acceleration. I don't know if that means anything for keepers. Teamwork, technique, and work rate also 1. So that's maybe something to improve on. We look at Van der Vaart if you could, Martin. Yeah, of course we can have a look at Van der Vaart. Let's have a look here at Mr. Campbell. Van der Vaart, there he is. Very good, very, very good stats for Van der Vaart, or attributes rather. His stats are piss poor, but his attributes are pretty good for a 19-year-old. So yeah, he's definitely one for the future, if not one for now. A very, very promising young talent. Joe wants to see his keepers as well, Mr. Palmer. Let's have a quick look at the Panathinaikos squad. We've got Bizardi, who's had a couple of games early on this season, I think. Anyway, he was in there a few times. Kind of okay, I guess. I mean, I think all of the keepers are kind of okay. Reflex is only 13 though, handling 15. Maybe not really what you want from a keeper. Let's see if the other ones are any better. Handling 14 and reflex is 15. Not much better for Paul Robinson, but some decent balance. Bravery, anticipation is also apparently quite important, and he's got a good work rate, so that's something to be said for him. Finally, Dida, who had a lot more games than he was meant to due to slight oversight. 17 handling, 16 reflexes, anticipation only 12, good teamwork, good work rate, good stamina strength, jumping 14. So yeah, pretty. I think they're pretty even to be honest, the keepers. Yeah. Paul Robinson obviously getting the nod ahead of Dida at the moment. Got a couple of fives, a little bit disaster-prone Paul Robinson, but he is of course an English keeper after all. So there's a proud history of that in recent years anyway. Not quite Rob Green territory or oh gosh, what was his name? David James, maybe not quite Calamity James territory, but Paul Robinson has had a bit of a howl occasionally as well. So those are kind of the players. Unless there's anything else you want to see, then I'll have a quick chat about some other stuff. So I appreciate there's not hundreds of people here, but we'll have a quick chat about it anyway. It's just a couple of thoughts that I've had with regards to question and answers and what Joe mentioned a bunch of stuff about some players to have a look at, some things, and I can prepare that as well. But I was gonna have a quick look at this one here first, just because I've raised a couple of questions on it, and I was just interested in people's opinions. So I appreciate there's only a handful of you here, but anyway, let's go through these quickly. Some questions have been raised by various people, including Alf, and there's been like DMs, whatever they're called, private messages, direct messages, as well with regards to the structure of the league and potential database changes. I've looked into it myself with Panathinaikos obviously being under new management from next season, whether anything was possible to change. There's a long answer which I won't bother with. There's a short answer which is no. It's not possible to change the team names really. With the editor I looked at, it's perhaps possible to change some of the colors, but I don't really care about that. And then there was some suggestions about allowing more substitutes. I think that's technically possible. You can change some things with regards to the league structure when it comes to that, but I have no interest in even beginning to play with that because I don't want to jeopardize the integrity of the game. Change the manager nickname. What should I do that for? What would that achieve, Ryan? Change the manager nickname. I'm not sure what that would achieve with regards to changing the name of the club. Change the manager's name. I can change the manager's name, but right, you're gonna have to elaborate. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Is it the manager's name you want to change, or what do you want to change? So we'll see. I'll wait for Ryan's. Okay, ignore him. Okay. I can change the manager name. I think Alf was interested in getting the first names on there. I mean, I can do that. It's not a problem. So that people can see what your first names are. But yeah. Either way, there will be no structural changes to the game. I don't have time. Um, yeah, I don't have time to look into it. I don't have time to do the testing. I don't have time to change it to risk anything. I'm gonna run with this the way that we have it. Ideally, I would have liked to change the nationality of the let's say top 1,000 players to Australian, or I would have liked to change the league so it doesn't has a nationality ruling in. Yeah, he means change it FEO. I mean, I don't speak text, so if there's something that you would like me to do, then please write it out in full, and and I'll consider it. So that's basically the thing about the structural and the database changes. There won't be any. All the teams will be called the same. You will not get more substitutions. The teams will not change color. I will not change the managers' names and all these things because they're cosmetic, and I have other stuff to do, such as doing these kind of like long rambling rants where I could be doing it, but I prefer this. So that's pretty much it. He means change it from Chris to Ryan. I, I literally have no idea what you're talking about, but that's just me. If you mean to change Panathinaikos, I will just retire Parma and add a new manager. That's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. I mean, I can retire a manager and put a new one in as many times as I like, but I'm not going to do it just to change the name or change the nickname or whatever. That's either way, I'm not changing it. The end. Okay, so the schedule for season 2 and onwards. So I had a bit of a thought about Wednesday, and after doing these last games here, I have decided that there will be no more Wednesday games under any circumstances. I had set a deadline for myself that to get the season finished by Easter, and I'm sticking to that. So there will be possibly Wednesday games coming up to that. For season 2, it will be Sunday only. Otherwise, I feel that the quality of the product is dropping a little bit. I'm not spending the time preparing comments for the co-coms for myself. And Okay, the conversation is finished around that, Ian. That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. Um, yeah, so that's it basically. From next season onwards, it's going to be Sundays only, and it's going to hopefully I'm going to try and structure it a little bit better, but we'll kind of get to that maybe at the end of this, if anyone's still listening. With regards to holidays, we're going to have a quick discussion about what's going to happen over the summer holidays, whether we're going to be playing the games, whether we're going to be doing nothing or something else or whatever. I mean, I would like to kick off the season again after Easter at some point, so probably mid to end of April for season 2. But of course we've got the summer coming up, so we're going to have to see how we deal with that. Preferably we just kind of run it, but it obviously depends what people, including me, are doing over that. So yeah, Sunday only. So it could obviously take 26 plus weeks, or at least 6 months. So with a bit of luck, we'll be done with season 2 for Christmas. Yeah, that'll be it. With regards to the media side of things, of course, if anyone has any questions to any of this, then just let me know in the comments. With regards to the interactive side of things, the media, so I'm quite happy with the Twitter and YouTube setup, to be honest. Tweeting out whenever there's new shows going live and tweeting to people and things like that. Happy with that. I'm happy with YouTube. I'm quite happy with the way that YouTube works. I'm quite happy with uploading, recording and uploading videos if it's necessary, but also the actual streaming bit. I'm quite happy with YouTube. I think it's a good platform. It works okay with Skype, and getting people in on the calls as well, sharing the screen and they can see through that way. I'm trying to do a little bit of extra stuff, putting things on the YouTube thing as well, just a little bit of like banner fun and getting the chat in and things like that. Of course, you can't see the chat now because I've changed the I've changed the setup to the other screen, but yeah, the chat will be back in the comments and it'll stay there. I think it's quite good, and I like to keep the record of it as well. I'll skip the second bit and I'll speak about managers and the managers interaction. It's cool, it's fine, whatever you want to do. I really like to see the videos, and I think the other managers do as well. I think this whole thing about growing the brand and getting global recognition for the Super League is fine. If that's what we want to speak about, then that's cool, but that's not on my agenda. So if anyone else wants to pick up that, then they're obviously welcome. I think the main benefit is for each other. Yeah, that we do the videos for each other and we make people laugh. I appreciate I don't really do videos, but I think I do enough talking, to be completely honest. So that's where we are with that. So happy with that. Make sure you keep your Twitter posts within the Twitter guidelines, so you don't have to so you don't have to do an Ardsley Celtic and come up with a new one because you've insulted some random woman. What else have we got? We've got the website. What's the future of the website? I don't know, to be honest, because I'm not a websitey person who can create websites. It's obviously there. I've put some content on it. If anyone knows anyone who likes to do it, then yeah, that would be great. If anyone wants to do anything website related, then they're obviously more than welcome. And if anyone knows anyone who would like to do it, then please give me a shout. If not, I think the subscription and because I own the domain, I own CM0102 SL. I bought it last year, but that obviously got to be renewed. And but I mean, there's no point in me paying for it, to be honest, because I don't put any content on there. So we're kind of maybe going to have a discussion at the end of the season about whether the managers want to chip in like £1 a month or something like that to keep the website running, or we just drop it because I think it's fine, but unless I get time to actually update it, there's no point in me paying for it, to be completely honest. What else have we got to talk about? The show in general. So the comments from Palmer were that the level of detail was good. The way that we give the way that we give. No, I know you don't look at the website, Palmer. Neither do I. There's nothing on it. There's a couple of hugely out of date pictures from last season. It's not been looked at since June, I think. So yeah, no one looks at it. But if there was something on it, they might. That's what I'm saying. If anyone knows anyone or if anyone wants to do something, then they're more than welcome. Finally, we've got the show, the level of detail, good or bad. It's obviously been mentioned that the level of detail is pretty good. We give sort of equal coverage to each game, and that will continue to happen. There's a little bit too much talking, which I appreciate. I'm guilty of that, and so are the co-commentators, and I don't stop them. So we'll try and control this a little bit. We will have to try and control the length of the show a little bit. I do like the level of detail, and I do like the chat. It's always great to chat to all of you guys, but 2 hours is a lot, yeah. So so we'll see. Um, Cut down the halftime reviews a tad, yeah. But if something has happened, then it's interesting to talk about. But I get your point. I get your point. We could definitely do it a little bit shorter. I just don't want to dilute the actual product. So, as mentioned before, I don't want to like annoy you guys or do things that aren't great for you. But I don't want it to be a home save. I don't want to put the games up, play the games, turn it off next week, go again, then you submit the squads, etc., etc., etc. Then we can just play at home. Yeah, it is to give it a little bit of a leak, kind of have each game scheduled to start. Yeah, I do, Ryan. I do. I have a time schedule that I never stick to. Yeah, 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 I know, I have it. But yeah, I don't. I don't really follow it. It's a great idea, and it's what I've started to put in place myself when we ran hugely over time. But I never stick to it. And even if I give 10 minutes to each game, that's still 70 minutes plus lots of chat. So yeah, we'll try and do it in hopefully like a sort of a more natural way. We'll be able to do it. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. It'll be for next year anyway. The rest of the season we're just gonna wing it, I think. Um, Finally, and I'll put this question out to people again. I don't know if you've noticed, but there was a guy who mentioned it, another user, a non-Super League manager, who mentioned that he might be able to help with getting data out of the save file that I could send to you instead in kind of like an Excel tidied up format, so you could see all the player stats and ratings, etc. We'll see if anything comes of that. And then it's just a bit the packs. I mean, I don't mind doing them, but I do get the impression that quite a few people don't like. I mean, it's not maybe they don't look at them, but but they don't really, pay any attention to them, and it obviously takes time. Yeah, it's another hour at least. I mean, obviously it'll help if I don't do 2 games a week, but to do an hour to sit and create the packs and write the information on, and then people continue to play people with like low morale and shit average rating in the wrong position. That's cool, but it makes me feel a little bit as if I don't really bother, shouldn't bother, and I don't want to pick out the people who just submit the same squad, regardless. But if you don't need the pack, if you don't look at the pack, I won't think anything less of you. Just please be honest and say I don't need the pack. If you just want a screenshot of your squad and who's injured and who's not, and then you set your team by that, that's fine. I really don't mind that at all. I'm not asking for anyone else for anyone to do anything above submitting the starting 11 and some substitutes and some tactics. If you don't want the pack, then please let me know, because it is a shit ton of work to create them, with taking the screenshots, etc. So I'll put this out on the on the website as well, just to kind of reduce my workload a little bit. I mean, I'm a completionist, so I would like to see all of the packs completed for the full season. But yeah, it needs to make sure it needs to make sure it adds value as well for you guys to look at it, and yeah, so packs if there's anything else that should be in it, or if there should be different screens, or whatever else you guys want in there, definitely let me know if you want to reduce it to something else. Anything we can do. I don't mind giving 10 screenshots to each team as long as you actually use them. Then I don't mind at all. So that's kind of it for the packs. That's kind of it. What I had to kind of go on a bit of a rant about, not a rant, a ramble this evening. So yeah, those were the questions and answers. I haven't prepared any of your suggestions, Joe. It was what were you going to say about managers? What was I going to say about managers? I kind of said that already, didn't I? I don't know. I said that I don't expect any managers to do anything other than participate. If you want to do videos, if you want to do comments to each other and keep it fun, then I'm all for it. But there's no expectation for any of you to promote the brand or anything like that. It's just having a bit of a laugh. I think managers are in general very interactive. Certainly, most of them are, and I think that's good for the league in general. I think it's good for the league in general that people can have a bit of fun with each other and slag each other off in a friendly way. That I think that's very nice. So keep up the good work. Really, was the message on managers rather than anything else. And of course, if you have any kind of comments other than the 600 things that Joe suggested to what I could cover in a midweek show, then that would be great because I would like to do a midweek show, but it'll be focused on things like that, good or bad players, transfers, things that have happened, rather than so much time on reviewing the actual games. And of course, I would still like people to join the midweek shows as well, but I appreciate we're busy. There's Champions League football. There's 5 of us tonight, yeah. So so it's not always that people have time, and that's cool. I just kind of like doing it on a Wednesday evening, especially if I can keep it to like an hour, like tonight. So that's pretty much it for that. So I think that's covered what I wanted to chat about. So if you want to have, this is kind of your last chance. If you want to have a look at anything from the game, then now's your chance. Otherwise, you can obviously send me a message, and I'll have a look for you later. If there's anything you want screenshots of or anything like that. Otherwise, I'll kind of love you and leave you with a list of the fixtures.